Hello and welcome to Insights, the podcast with your host, Joe Pane. Join me in this deep exploration of our personal journeys from ambition to meaning, where we stop living life fast and start living life deep. This is a journey of waking up and realizing that our lives have never been about us, but about others. True success leaves positive ripple effects on other souls. I believe that success needs to be redefined from our own personal ambitious endeavors to be redefined as the value that we leave and give to others around us. Join me now as we begin this journey to deeper connections, even more fulfillment, some fun, curiosity, life, love, and all good things. Your deeper journey from ambition to meaning starts right now. Hello and welcome to episode 49. Joe here. I hope you're all doing great, doing well. Just a quick housekeeping before we hop into today. As you may realize, October 22-23 is the final free introduction to extended disc training available on Zoom. And so for those of you who are curious about behavioral profiling, energetic profiling, understanding more about emotional fitness from a identity perspective, it's a phenomenal day and a half together. And then, of course, for those of you who want to go further down the rabbit hole and become professionally accredited internationally as a behavioral profiler, you can continue your journey beyond that. But as I think I mentioned on previous episodes, it's a standalone training, and I love delivering it. And a lot of people get great value. And I think there's about, at the time of this recording, there's about 130 people who are booked in to come. So looking forward to it. That'll be on Zoom. How you book in? You just simply go to joepane.com.au and you'll find the link there. It's pretty clear where it is, and you'll need to register so you can receive the Zoom link before we start. Okay, and that's October 22-23. All right, let's hop into today's topic. So how to become, or the statement I made here is to become more loyal to your inner world than your outer world. So let's hop in. Let's have a chat. Let me share with you this insight. I actually had this thought I was just sitting in my backyard just a couple of days ago, and I had this thought, and then I sat down and wrote this particular podcast episode as I fleshed out this idea more, because it's something that I personally relate to, and I hope you do too. So let's see how we go. So psychologically, there are two worlds that we live in. How things and people seem to be is what I call the outer world. And how we feel and see ourselves in this world is our inner world. Our inner world is made up of our emotional compass, our values, our deepest, darkest, lightest, brightest, intimate thoughts that we either share or don't share with the world. And the outer world is what we see of the outside of somebody else. And there are often quite distinct disparities between the two. And so what I want to share with you here in this insight today, in this episode, in episode 49, is I really want to go a bit deeper into understanding in terms of what I'm trying to share with you here, that, become more loyal to your inner world than your outer world, and you'll experience life in a completely different way. So outer world is our interpretation of what's going on out there, and our inner world is a knowing that we have. When we become more loyal to our outer world, we begin behaving and making decisions which are influenced by external sources with their own agendas, hidden or open. Becoming a slave to outer world needs causes us to behave the way that we are kind of sort of meant to, like based on media, advertising, social media, movies, and perhaps even people in our life that we don't really know, or they don't truly know us. Could be someone at work or something like that. It is impossible for anyone, and listen to this very carefully, this is a key distinction in this thinking that I want to share with you, this insight. It's impossible for anyone to truly know your inner world experience. Like, it's impossible for anyone, I'll say more accurately, it's impossible for anyone to truly know every aspect of your inner world experience. Think about this. There is nobody in your life who knows or has access to parts of your inner world which you know intimately. In other words, there is no one out there who has access to all of your inner world. I'll give you an example, and I'll explain this. So my wife, Silvana, and I have known each other. We've been together since 1993. We are very close, and you could say that we know everything there is to know about each other. I would completely agree with that. I'm totally 100% with that. And but what I've just shared with you just seems to fly against what I just said. Well, it does and it doesn't. There is a big part of my inner world experience which she knows very little about. That part is my work part, meaning that when I'm in full flow delivering workshops, whether they are just a few hours long or many days long, nobody but me knows intimately how that feels and how it is experienced. I can't really describe it. Obviously, Silvana knows what I do for a living, but that part of me will never be able to be translated accurately to my outer world to someone who has not had a similar experience. My best mate, whom I've known since 1989, is another person who I'm intimately close to. We know everything about each other, yet he has no access to another part of my inner world life, which is my running world. Only I know that part of me, what it feels like to finish off the last 12 kilometers of a marathon, or how it feels to fling my body at the fastest pace I can hold for 5 kilometers. He just doesn't have access to that because he doesn't share the experience. He doesn't have that experience. Ironically, other runners who I'm not as close to personally will completely understand that part of my inner world. In other words, in the sharing, and this is another key point, in the sharing of mutual experiences, we build a psychological bridge from our inner world to the inner world of another. I have many behavioral bridges which links me or my inner world experiences of running with many fellow runners who get it. Yet the one person who matters to me the most, whom I'm loyal beyond word, my wife, doesn't share that bridge with me. Clearly, Silvana and I share many other bridges into each other's inner worlds, bridges of parenting, marriage, and a vast array of adventures which we've had in our traveling world, family world, and so on. The point here is that no one single person has access to every single part of your inner world or mine. This is another way of saying that there is no human being out there who has a bridge to every aspect of your inner world. The only person who has access to every part of your inner world is you. If we become more loyal to our outer world instead of our inner world, we will start expending unsustainable levels of energy trying to fit in everywhere, fitting into others' inner worlds. Our identities become lost, diluted, diffused into our human experience. This potentially may lead to an identity crisis, and an identity crisis contributes immensely to anxiety and depression issues. Deciding to be more loyal to your inner world means you no longer value trying to fit in. Instead, we begin to learn how to appropriately share aspects of our inner worlds with others. And instead of fitting in, we begin to feel like we belong. Big difference. Considering the fear of not belonging is a universal fear, nothing matters more than the feeling of genuinely belonging to the various parts of your life, like different people and different relationships and different situations. Fitting in is behaving in ways we feel we need to so we can be accepted, right? And wanting to be accepted is very different to belonging. Being accepted is a fear of not being loved, and that's another universal fear. We all have the universal fear of not being loved. There are no bridges from our inner world to others' inner worlds. However, when we belong to a group, a relationship, or even an experience, we are building bridges from our inner worlds to others. We can never feel lonely or emotionally isolated when we belong. So what I meant before when I said there are no bridges from our inner world to other inner worlds, that's not entirely accurate. What I mean by that is that if we're coming in from the psychology of fitting in, we can't build a bridge from our outer world to the inner world of somebody else. It's got to be from inner to inner. Let me explain more. Let's keep going with this thought. From a behavioral standpoint, what prevents us from building these bridges and truly connecting with someone relates to these three fears, which relates to all of humanity. So I'll say them again. Well, actually, I haven't actually said all three of them. I'll say them now. We all have a fear of not being enough. We all have a fear of not belonging, and we all have a fear of not being loved. In other words, what holds us back from building these bridges from our inner worlds to the worlds of others is that we feel our inner world is not enough. That's because that thought or that idea or that experience is ours and ours alone, And we feel that it may not be as valid as somebody else's thought, idea, or experience. This is a completely normal part of the human condition. And perhaps you might be the odd person out, which is a good thing, that you don't feel that way. But for most people, that's how we feel. I know when I started this journey, writing and coaching and delivering workshops, when I started to build the courage to share my own ideas about things, there was that fear of not being accepted, that fear of my idea not being enough, and obviously the fear of not being loved or connected with. So I believe it's a normal part of the human condition for most of us. So the fear of not being enough can really, really hold us back. In turn, by not sharing, we get to minimize our chances. We minimize our chances of not being accepted. This links directly to our fear of not belonging. So if we don't share, we stay safe. We won't be rejected, which takes care of our fear of not being loved. The classic irony is that fitting in may seem the safer option, but this is short-term thinking. When there are very few, if any, bridges from our inner world to others' inner worlds and outer worlds, as I said earlier, we will become emotionally isolated. This leads to a life that looks good on the outside, but lonely and dark on the inside. To close the gap, become more loyal to your inner world than your outer world. Have the courage to share with the right person something that matters to you. When sharing a similar experience or activity with someone, share your inner world experience of that event or that moment, how it felt, with the thoughts that went through your mind, the experience of it. Just color it with all the emotions you can. The more bridges we have, the more deeply we connect with others. We can then stop fitting in and begin to belong. It's a lot easier to live your life that way, believe me. So thank you for listening. I hope that this fast insight this week has provided you with some food for thought. And that is, reach out from your inner world. When you're sharing experiences with another person that you relate to from your experiences, share it. It's a special bond, even if it's just over one experience. But the more bridges you're able to build from your inner world to the reaching into other people's inner worlds, as I said, the more connected that you will feel, and you won't feel the need anymore to behave in a way just to fit into something. So it's all about belonging and becoming part of something for the right reasons, a values match and all that kind of stuff. So be more loyal to your inner world than your outer world. Thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. This is episode 49. I can't believe next week is episode 50. I should celebrate that somehow. Maybe I'll bring along a little glass of champers with me whilst I'm recording episode 50, just so I can celebrate it with you. Anyway, look, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate, again, I appreciate, I dearly love your messages of support. But I love your messages. My favorite messages are not so much the ones that say how much you love the podcast. They're great, so don't get me wrong. But it's when you guys share with me, an episode you've listened to and how it's impacted your life, or how it saved you from something, or how it helped you with something. I love that. And please don't think that, other people sending him messages, so I won't. No, be loyal to your inner world. If you feel, without even thinking too much, if you feel that you want to share with me what it is that, how this has helped you, please do. Find me on my fan page and send me a message. That's simply at Joe Pane Insights on Facebook. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Enjoy, and I'll see you. You'll hear from me very soon. Bye for now. I'm Joe Pane, and you've been listening to Insights, the podcast. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. You can now follow my insights on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to being with you again very soon in the next episode of Insights, the podcast.